Hey everyone, I'm Cherrie. Welcome to my live stream. I hope you're all well on this, in the UK, a very hot and balmy day. I'm down in Sussex by the coast, so yeah, it's pretty hot, but the wind, as you'll see in the trees behind me, is picking up. Ready as we approach the solstice, the summer solstice here, my side of the hemisphere, to yeah, the solstice slipstream to welcome in the summer. Yay! Although, what a beautiful spring we have had. So, today, just a little bit about me. I am a psychologist, a psychotherapist, an ecotherapist, a medicine woman, and I'm here to talk today a little bit about our vital energies and what that means. So, this one applies specifically, we think, to women, but actually, it very much has a crossover to the men in our lives as well. And yeah, our children as well, right? This is not just a women's issue, vital energies. Everybody has an energy, everybody has a vibe, everybody has a body, everybody has pains and sufferings and challenges and roller coasters. So today I really wanted to tune into what it means to safeguard our vital energies and how we can do that. What actually is there that we can tune into to say hello body, hello mind, and not in a should or shouldn't and don't do this and do this way, but in a more aligned, in tuned way that actually tunes in, feeds in to our true systems of who we are and what we need. So it becomes very cyclical, doesn't it? And it's interesting that this week is coming up to the summer solstice because actually, what are your cyclical understandings? And for us women, that is a lot easier to understand because we have our 28-day cycle. And, not everybody's is 28 days. And everybody starts at different times, they end at different times, they go into perimenopausal at different times. Everything is different for everybody. We are all unique and divine beings. So, what is it that happens when we tune into our cyclical being? And what happens when we tune into the cyclical beings around us as well? And, that's just not the women. We also acknowledge that men have cycles that they go through. And you'll notice there'll be times when, the men around us are actually, okay, what are you going through? What's happening there? And there are times where they're powered up, so very much like women, the power up is generally, and this is just a generalization, is around the time of ovulation or the time of the new moon. If you're not bleeding, you can track this through the moon cycles because the moon doesn't just have an impact on the tides, the moon also has an impact on our moon. On our moon cycles. That's why they call it moon cycles rather than periods or menstruation. There's lots of different words for all different things because actually there's a natural cycle that we all have. There's natural cycles for men and women and children and pets. And if you've ever worked in the care industry or any kind of institution, yeah, and many people will recognize that actually the lunar cycle and the word lunacy have direct links, and it's said around a full moon. That's where the myth of the werewolf comes about, right? So, which is written about very many times, and in cinematography as well. So, yeah, what's going on with our cycles? How can we understand them, and how does this link? As today, our topic is very much about vital energies. So I grew up with the understanding that shops were shut on Sundays. Well, when was that ever a thing? And Wednesday afternoons. And people rested on the Sabbath. And it clicked for me actually. What do clergy do? Because they don't rest on a Sabbath. On a Sunday, that's not their Sabbath. And I remember asking a dear friend this not so many years ago, actually. And she was like, well, I have a different Sabbath. And what does Sabbath mean? What does it actually mean? And how does that mean for what does that mean for a mother? How does a mother take this time to rest when she still feeds her children? What does a father do when actually he still plays with his children and he needs to prepare for work on the Monday, or the mother needs to prepare for work on the Monday and look after the children? All of the different collaborations of life and constellations that we have now around our families and our blended families and how the setup works. It's not 2.4 children and it's not mum and dad at home. And in some places it is, but it's all different. And it feels like, excuse me, sorry, hay fever. It feels like as these changes have been implemented across societal, as it happens, right? This is evolution. We're always one step ahead of the next evolutionary cycle, and that's the way it's determined to be. It's evolution. But what actually happens is that do we take time to rest in between these upgrades? Do we take time to integrate? And the idea of a Sabbath, the idea of a rest, the idea of vital energy, the idea of taking a holiday, the idea of having a weekend is usually just an idea. But what happens when you put that into play? What happens when you cook in advance and have stuff in the freezer? What happens when you don't do any cleaning on a certain day? Or the deeds of my house says that we shouldn't hang washing out on a Sunday. Mm, because actually, we shouldn't be doing any washing on a Sunday. And it's not about getting caught into the idea of the Christian ideologies of this and being told what to do and what not to do. It's about taking the best bit of this, leave the rest, okay? Just leave the rest. Take the best bit of this. It's really important to rest. Yeah, it's really important. It's a kind of direction of like, okay, if your body doesn't rest, you're going to burn out. If you don't have the vital energies, it's a bit like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, yeah, and I'm sure you've heard of that before. But if you don't have this hierarchy of needs met at a basic level of food, of shelter, of love, what happens when you take rest into that equation? What happens? How much rest do you need? How much sleep do you need? How much chill time do you need? How much socializing time do you need? Sometimes too much is too much. Yeah, we can all sit on the sofa for too long. We can all sunbathe too long, and there's consequences on this. But what is your tipping point? What helps? And are there certain times of the month, certain seasons of the year, certain situations that occur where actually you're invited to rest more, to take more Sabbath time? What happens in those times, and what are you invited to do in those times? What it feels intuitively right? What food feels right to do? In winter, we're more likely to have broths, and in summer, we're more likely to have salads. So, our understanding of these cyclical ways of being, the store cupboard food versus the fresh foods that actually we grow and can be sustainable ourselves, what happens if this is not just part of a bit of a pipe dream or, yeah, that's great? What happens if it's reality? What happens if we start to sow these seeds early on in the season and then actually take the fruits of our labor? And if you apply that principle to your body, if you apply that principle to your rest, if you apply that principle to your workplace, if you apply that principle to your fun, if you apply that principle to your financial systems, and this is certainly an area that I love to work with, because actually, what happens when we dance this into existence, when we use the natural earth to inform us of what our body needs in order to get what we want? And that's what the summer solstice is all about as well. What do you want to bloom into existence? What do you desire? If you were sitting on God's knee, what would you ask for? What would it be like for you to ask for something and then be met with, actually, you need to do less? You don't need to graft more. You don't need to get the next promotion. You don't need to get a better result. I saw an awesome thing by Ben Fogel the other day, and it was the letter N. And if you follow me on Instagram, you will see that I shared it because I took great delight in that. I was always kind of average to top academically until I started. Yeah, I'd say probably average, right? Let's go average. I was average, and I was busy at school with some other stuff. Yeah, that's another story. But I enjoyed academia. Whereas I know a lot of people that don't enjoy academia and they go for the ends, they get the ends. But actually, does that mean from our education system that everybody has to be academic high achievers? No, they don't. I only became a high achiever when I got to later on in my university career when I was focusing on something I love. this stuff, right? And I regularly have my head in many books, and even to the point that I buy books that I already have, yeah, because I absolutely love to soak up this information. And if this was the same case in my maths lesson or my art lesson when I was 14 years old, I think my education system and the relationships that I had and the way that I was with my body and the way that I was with rest and the way that I was with sport would have been very, very, very different. Now, I don't pretend to know the answer to the problems that we have in our education system, but actually, I do know that the more that we do, that we can delight in, and the more space we have for delight, the more space we have for bliss, the less space we have for the lack and the pain and the suffering and the challenges. Now, that doesn't mean those things don't happen. It just means that we are equipped to deal with them in a different way. And that's why I think they're called vital energies. They're vital energies, and we need to treat them preciously in our bodies and our minds and our souls and our spirits because they are so precious. And we need them because when the chips are down, that's when we really need them. And that's the kind of work that I am welcoming in now, is that understanding of our cyclical being, our understanding of how we relate and how those patterns in therapy and counseling and show up in our lives, right? How we want to explore unconsciously what's going on in those shadows, what's going on in those dark spaces, what happens when we are in the winter times of our lives, and what messages can we get from that. And, these dark places are dark, right? I've been there too. When we are faced with infertility, when we are faced with miscarriage, when we are faced with dodgy bleeds that, to even consider a 28-day bleed as being average and normal is like, that's not considerable, right? When we are faced with anything to do with our cycle as women, anything to do with our cycle as a partner to someone who's going through stuff, when we have anything that is causing us pain or suffering physically, mentally, emotionally, anxiety, depression, all of this stuff that really pulls us down in life. Divorce, separation, betrayal, loss, this stuff is heavy, and it's heavy on our system. And when stuff is heavy on our system, it depletes our vital energies. Of course it does. That's just, the A plus B, and the C, the consequence is burnout. And that's what I see people come to me with all the time. And one of the things that I'm really drawn to at the moment is like, how can we prevent that? Let's go upriver, right? This stuff is happening, and it happens in our culture all the time. So let's go upriver. Let's see what's going on for you. Let's see what happens upriver that we can unblock, or we can unpick, or we can allow to tune into what's happening with those vital energies. So, on the surface of it, vital energies, sounds a little bit like a supplement that you get in Boots, but actually, I really want to draw your attention to where your vital energies are and what you do with them and how you tenderly love and respect them. So, that's me for today. If you'd like to hear more, keep tuning in. I also am on Instagram, and I show up on Facebook. I have a website which I put blogs on. But probably to get the most up-to-date information from me, if you subscribe to my website, it's www.seejoy.co.uk. So yeah, giving you a clue to see more joy, but also my name, Cherrie Joy. So yeah, sign up to my website. That would be lovely. I'm based in Bexhill in East Sussex, and I run fire circles, women's circles, workshops. I've got retreat in Forest Row, which I'm so excited about, in September around the autumn equinox. And I do online webinars. My shop is due to open, where there will be easily accessible, really nourishing webinars that you can access and you can use as guided materials to really help you out. So that's where I'm expanding to, and that's why I've been resting for a while, which is why you haven't seen me necessarily be live. But as I said, summer is coming and we're all blooming, and we're also taking time for rest. So yeah, just look after yourself today. Go easy, And I look forward to seeing you again soon. If you have any feedback, please drop me a line and on any of the ways of communicating. And I look forward to seeing you all soon. Take good care and love and blessings.